All right. It says 2 people in here already. Boy, that was quick. Give me a second to get all set up here and get chat opened up so I can keep up with what's going on. And hey there, Giant Angora, how are you? Sharky, how are you doing? Yep, you were the first tonight, Giant Angora. All right, looks like we got a couple of people joining in here. Sorry, I want to apologize to you guys right off the bat about last week's video. All kinds of things going on last week. I wasn't really on my A game. I was just kind of a little bit distracted by, people spamming the chat there. Hopefully that's taken care of. Had 1 or 2 of them come back and apologize later on some comments, and I told them, thank you for apologizing. Don't do it again, please. So anyway, so apologize for that. I know it was a little bit hectic last week. Hopefully tonight will be a little bit better. So who all we got in here? Jennifer Wilson, hey. Pebbles, hello. Kelly Dragstrom. Kelly, I'm just going to call you Kelly. Hey, good evening to you. Jan Gutierrez, huh? Hey, how are you? Let's see. Oh, well, thank you very much, Kelly. I have a lot of patience. I do try to be patient with people. There's no reason to lash out, and more than likely they're just kids. They don't need to be beaten up over it. And I think, that brings up a good point here to kind of talk about. Sometimes, and I don't see, my normal subscribers, my normal viewers doing this, but sometimes I do see in comments. I have one video that kind of went viral. Wild baby rabbits in the yard at the office, I think is what it was called. And it's got over 2 million views on it. And somebody will come in there and comment every once in a while, something like, don't touch them, the mother's going to abandon them. And everybody will just come in and just attack that person, call them names and cussing at them and all that. And when you actually click on that person's profile, it's like some 12-year-old kid, some 11-year-old kid. It's just, think about things before you actually lash out at people for that. They're just kids. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody, does something they regret or acts like a jerk sometimes. There's no reason to let that get to you and go after them. So anyway, enough with that. I'll get off my soapbox on that. So who else here? Valentina, good to see you. DT Quail and Rabbitry, hello. LLJ, hey, thank you for the happy belated birthday. Appreciate that. Who's that? Is that beef for dinner, huh? Hi, how are you? I bet I say that Emanuela, right? Probably. I would say it Emanuela, but I think that's probably wrong. Anyway, good evening to you. Thomas's Outdoor Products says, hey, Chris, how are the plants doing? Well, just started sprouting. Here, let me grab the plant tray here. I'll show you what they look like. We got... I don't know if you can see these or not, but there we go. Got, let's see, what do I got here? Romaine lettuce, cabbage, Brussels sprouts. Let's see, celery hasn't sprouted yet. There's more Brussels sprouts. The cauliflower is just starting to come up. I don't know if you can see that on film or not. And the broccoli has not sprouted yet, but everything else is doing pretty good. So, anyway, had to remove the, let me put these back and I'll come back and talk. Had to remove the humidity domes from them and get those going. And now I got to put some lights on them. So I'm going to be shooting some more video on that for you guys. Where we at here? Isabel, hey, good evening to you, Isabel. Pebbles says, I saw your baby rabbit video a long time before I saw your channel. Oh, well, thank you so much for coming to the channel after watching that video. That was kind of a weird thing. I have no idea why that video took off, but it did. It's got like over 2 million views now. It was just something, the rabbit had a nest right outside the office door. I mean, just right outside the door, and has come back since then and had a nest the next year, the same spot. I'm assuming it was the same rabbit anyway, don't know for sure. And I thought, well, I'm just going to film that and show that to my YouTube audience. And that was a couple of years ago, I think, a year and a half ago or so. And anyway, when I filmed that video, just showed them, just, picked them up, showed them the camera, said, if you find a baby rabbit nest, they're not abandoned, leave them there. Talked about it being a myth about how handling a baby rabbit will make the mother abandon it. And man, it just took off like crazy. I don't know why. It was about 6 months or almost a year before it actually took off. And then all of a sudden, just boom, it was gone. 2 million views. I haven't even checked it recently to see what it's at. Anyway, so at least got one viewer from that. Pebbles came in watching that video and came to my channel, so glad to see you here. I always think that the people watching that video are probably like really surprised if they click on my channel, because they're all telling me, oh, you're such a hero for taking care of these baby rabbits. And you know, I like rabbits, and you guys know that. I like animals. I'm you know, I'm a conservationist. I don't believe in killing things just to kill them. I believe that, you know, there's a purpose, there's a reason for it all the time. But I'm sure that they come to my channel thinking they're going to find all kinds of cute little, you know, animal videos, and they see me butchering a rabbit or something like that, and they probably just think, what in the world happened here? I always think that's kind of funny, but who knows. Let's see, Jesse Jackson's here for the first time. Well, welcome, glad you made it. Who else we got here? Mike Priest bought all my seed starting supplies plus a grow light. Well, fantastic, Mike. If this is your first year starting seeds, I'm sure you probably watched my seed starting video I did last week. I'm going to be doing a series of those. I'll just keep up with those plants all the way until they go into the garden. So stay tuned. We'll make sure that you have a good harvest. Six Count Family says, hey, it's warm. It's a warm night down here in Texas. You know, it's actually pretty warm outside. I contemplated doing this video outside tonight. It was 70, 71, 72 degrees today. But then we got a cold front coming through. It's going to be a low of 31 tonight. So a 50-degree drop in temperature overnight. Tomorrow's only going to get up to 40. So DT Quail and Rabbitry says, I have done research and still do not know what happened to him. I missed something, DT Quail and Rabbitry. What did I miss? I think you had another comment there that I missed. Sorry about that. Beef for Dinner says, what age would you move your quail outside, and what would be the minimum temperature outside so that you would not need a heat lamp? Okay, good question. Oh, look at that. Jamie Landers came in here, stepped up, and is apologizing for the last time. Said he just wanted to see Xander. He was the one that was kind of spamming, but look at that. He's stepping up. He's saying, I'm sorry for doing that. So, you know, that says something for you, Jamie. Thank you for admitting to your mistake, for apologizing, and appreciate you coming back and watching. Just do me a favor, please don't spam the comments again. But thank you for owning up to that. Okay, so back to Beef for Dinner, moving quail outside. Okay, so put them in the brooder box. Whenever they fully feather out, about 2 weeks old, start weaning them off the heat lamp, and you'll know when they fully feather out. You know, they're not fluffy and fuzzy. You probably know what I'm talking about already. Wean them off the heat lamp. Just move the heat lamp a little bit away from the brooder box. Do that for a day or two until they'll kind of all crowd underneath there, and then they'll start spreading out again. When they start spreading out again, move it a little bit further away. Do that it takes a couple of days to get them kind of weaned off that, and then just take the heat lamp off of them completely at that point. If they're inside, like in a garage or something like that, and it doesn't get down below like 50 degrees, they're fine with that. Give them about 3 or 4 days of that, and depending on what the temperature is outside, if it's below freezing, I like to give them until they're at least 3 weeks old. And at least, you know, 4 or 5 days at least in the 50-degree temperature of the garage, and then I move them outside to the grow out pens. If it's the summertime, I move them outside at like 2 weeks old. As soon as they're fully feathered out, I wean them off the heat lamp in a couple of days, and then they'll go outside. And so hopefully that answers your question. That kind of gives you something to go with there. All right, Joe says, I made it this week. I set my alarm so I wouldn't miss you this week. Well, thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate you coming in here. Jesse Jackson says, we went from 50 to 3. Yeah, I know the feeling. We're not going to drop quite down to 3 degrees, but it's a significant drop in temperature. It's going to be cold. And just like 3 days ago, it was in the 30s, and we had snow and ice over the weekend. So, I mean, it's crazy. Everybody thinks no matter where they live, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong, well, except for maybe, who is it that lives in the Caribbean? You may not have this, but everywhere else in the country, in the United States anywhere, no matter where you live, everybody has this saying, if you don't like the weather in Missouri, whatever state, stick around for a day or two, right? It's common everywhere. And it's everybody thinks that their little part of the country is so much different than everywhere else, but no, it's everywhere is like that, especially this time of year. All right, Adams TV says, my bobwhite quails haven't laid eggs. Do you know why? They're 26 weeks and have 24% feed. Well, Adams TV, I'm not an expert on bobwhite quail, but generally speaking, light is going to be the biggest reason why birds don't lay eggs, and that pretty much goes for any bird. They need about 14 hours a day of light to lay, so that's pretty much in the summertime. That's something that's, you know, God put in them so that they wouldn't lay eggs in the middle of wintertime and have failed, you know, hatches and all that kind of stuff. You can cheat nature though. Just put some artificial lights up there. Get the light up to about 14 hours a day. And with Coternics anyway, about 2 weeks of that, and they start laying. So, I can't say for Bob White, they're not as consistent layers as Coternics, and I'm not an expert on Bob Whites, so I can't tell you exactly how long it's going to take to get them going. But yeah, definitely adding the light will make a big difference. All right, Joe Comet. I think it's Comet. I need to get my glasses fixed here. I have a hard time reading that screen that far away. It says, what's your opinion of the Mittleiter? I can't ever know how to say that. Mittleiter gardening method. And let's see. I'm somewhat familiar with that, but I can't remember exactly what that is. I'm going to have to look that up and see. It is Comet, huh? Remind me, give me a refresher, just a quick bullet point, one or two things that distinguish that gardening method from other gardening methods. I can't remember exactly what his method is. I remember I've seen it before, I've looked into it before, and I remember thinking nothing wrong with it, it seemed like a pretty decent method, but I don't remember the specifics of it, so I can't speak to it real well right offhand. Alan Perez says, thanks for all the videos that you've helped me out a lot with all my quail. Please keep them coming. Well, I'm doing my best, and feel free anytime in the comments section of any video I post. Let me know what you'd like to see in future videos, what topics you'd like to see addressed. I do my best to get those accommodated. Jamie Landers says, we have chickens in a big coop at school, and something keeps eating them. What should I tell them? What should I tell them what it is? Boy, it could be anything, Jamie, because everything likes to eat chickens. It could be, it depends on where you live. If you live in a fairly rural area, like out in the country where the school's kind of out at the outskirts of town, it could be anything from coyotes to foxes to raccoons to possums. You live in city, it's in the schools in the city, it's probably raccoons or something similar to that. Raccoons is probably going to be the best bet. It kind of depends. I mean, there's certain signs you can see. Raccoons will tend to reach through the chicken wire or something, grab a chicken, pull its head off. So if you find the carcasses and feathers and with heads missing, yeah, raccoon. A fox will tend to grab the chickens and take them and leave with them. So you won't see anything left with the carcass. But it could be any number of things. Cats, dog, I mean, anything. Everything will eat chickens. If they're disappearing during the day, then look for overhead, like hawks and eagles and those kinds of things. We'll go after chickens. But without knowing any more, it's really hard to say. Alex Simpson says, does hybrid vigor work on quail the same way it works with rabbits? You know what? That's a good question. I don't know, honestly. In my experience, I've never had any problems with any quail. I mean, pretty much once they hatch, once they are in the brooder, I lose very few, if any. They're all pretty hardy, pretty vigorous. So, I don't know that it really makes a difference with hybrids or not. And I think in a sense, almost all of them are hybrids of some kind. I really don't know the answer to that. But I've never found it necessary to look for a way to improve their vigor, so to speak, because, they've all been pretty hardy. They've all done pretty well. So, sorry, you stumped me on that one. All right, Patrick Joseph Gray says, hello, Chris. Weather is bad across the pond in Ireland, too. You have me hooked on quail. Well, thank you so much for watching the videos. I'm so glad I'm rubbing off on you. And Ireland, that is actually where my family is from, both sides, my mom and my dad's family, both from Ireland. Carnes is an Irish name. That's my last name. My mother's maiden name was Ardrey, and that's an Irish name. So, who knows? Maybe we're related somewhere. I doubt it. I mean, just because we're some, ancestry from the same place doesn't necessarily make us related. But hey, glad I got somebody from Ireland viewing. Someday I'm going to visit Ireland. That's on my bucket list. All right, Joe Comet says, okay, a packet of minerals mixed with 16, 16, 16. Okay, you're talking about the Mittleiter gardening method. Okay, that sounds somewhat familiar. So mixing in minerals like rock dust and some of those kinds of things, mixed in with a fertilizer, mixing that in with your soil to grow your plants in. There's nothing wrong with using that kind of stuff if you want to. I've never found it necessary. What I use is compost. To me, compost is, it's the best fertilizer you can get. It works. You don't have to guess at it. You're not going to over-fertilize with it. You're not going to under-fertilize with it. Just add compost to your gardens. and it works. Rabbit manure is fantastic fertilizer. I just add it straight to all my garden beds. But again, nothing wrong with that gardening method. It works just fine. To me, it's just a lot of extra inputs that I don't need to worry about. But that's just my opinion. All right, Luis Ramirez says, where did you get quail incubator? The incubator I use right now is a Little Giant styrofoam incubator. You can buy them on Amazon. Any farm supply store is going to have them. They're all about the same, honestly. You've got Little Giant, you've got Farm Innovations. They're about the same thing. Little Giant, one thing I can say about them, they're made by Miller Manufacturing, and they stand behind their product. I did have the thermostat in mind go out, contacted the company, they sent me a brand new thermostat, no questions asked. So, that's pretty good customer service. I like that. If I was going to buy a new incubator, I would probably go with a Hovabator. I hear really good things about the Hovabators. And they're very similar, the styrofoam box incubators. So hopefully that kind of answers that question. Joe says, fed weekly. I've seen them grow in sawdust and sand with high yield. All right, let's see. Feed weekly. Oh, okay. So growing the plants off minerals and the fertilizer only. Kind of almost like hydroponic, where you're not necessarily growing them in soil. You can grow them in anything. You're just providing them with that feed, that the minerals and the 16 by 16, 16, 16, 16 fertilizer. So yeah, that's very similar to like a hydroponic, where you're providing all the nutrients through fertilizers in the watering system. They're not growing in soil or anything like that, or the soil is kind of, it doesn't matter. Most of the time those are grown in like coconut coir or peat moss or something similar to that, where it's not really a nutrient dense soil. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It works out really well, and it can work really, really well. But again, for what I do, I'm just more of I'm organic. I hesitate to call myself organic because I'm not really organic, but I do believe more in building my soil and adding the compost to the soil and natural. You ever watch? There's a great video out there about sheep mulching. It's not called sheep mulching in the video though. Back to Eden gardening. If you look up that video, Back to Eden movie, I think is what it's called. It's a whole full-length movie, and it's all about this guy, how he's building his soil with wood chips, just putting wood chips over it. It's basically sheep mulching. It's basically the same thing. And that's kind of what I use in my garden. Provides all the nutrients the plants need. I don't have to water very much. In the end, it's just much easier for me. So that's just why I use that method. But nothing wrong with that. If you want to go that method, it works, and it works perfectly well. As I say, there's many different ways to skin a cat. Although I've never skinned a cat, but I'm sure there are many ways to do it. That's what the saying goes. Whatever's going to work for you is fine. I'm not going to judge you no matter what you decide to do. Excuse me. All right, so Jonathan Roy says, hey, Chris, just saw you were live. Hey, did you get your baby rabbits? Oh, boy, not yet. Like I said in the video, I kind of doubt that this one's actually pregnant. I don't know for sure. Yesterday and today, she's been hanging out in the nest box a lot, which she wasn't the 2 days before that. So who knows? Maybe she's still going to have babies, but she has not had any babies yet. So we're waiting. Now, I'm going to wait till through the end of the weekend before I give up on her. All right, Jamie Lander says, thank you. Should we keep the coop off the ground? Jamie, I kind of lost track of what we were talking about. I'm sorry, but if you're talking about quail, should you keep quail off the ground? In my opinion, I do. It just depends. So there's a couple of different ways you can do it. And we've talked about this before on this channel. Everybody's got a better way, a different way to do it. You can you can raise them in on-ground cages on the ground. You're just going to need a lot more space per bird. I do mine in hutches off the ground because it's lower maintenance. I don't have to clean the cages. I just shovel out the manure from underneath them about twice a year. And that's it. I don't have to worry about cleaning the cages. Now, if I had them in an in-ground, on the ground, then I'm going to need a lot more space because otherwise the manure is going to build up much, much quicker. You're also going to have to hunt for your eggs whenever you go to collect them every day. May or may not be a big deal for you. So really, it's up to you whichever way you want to. I like it personally off the ground. I keep it about chest high, so I just have to open it up, reach in, grab the eggs, put their food and water in, close it up, and I'm done. That's my daily chores. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. All right. Boy, I'm losing some comments here. Let me scroll back up, see what I got here. Where we got here? Unemployable says, why did you choose to raise quail and not pheasant or chuckers? I chose quail because of your great videos. Well, thank you so much, Unemployable. I chose quail because, I live in the city, and chickens are, it's legal here. I can keep chickens, but I can't keep roosters. So I wouldn't be able to incubate and have, I couldn't have that many chickens anyway in town. I'm limited to like 5 or 6. It's just a little bit more work to get chickens going. You got to build a bigger pen, a hutch, or not a hutch, but a coop, all those kinds of things. And I decided on quail because they lay an egg a day, very consistent layers. They're easy to reproduce, just very reliable on fertile eggs, and they grow out fast, 8 weeks old, they're ready to butcher, and you don't get that with pheasant or chuckers. They're a little bit less reliable, they don't lay as many eggs, they're slower to grow out. So that's why I chose quail. 6 Count Family says, thanks for the motivation. We picked up 2 does today, looking to get a buck from another source to ensure they're not related. Does it actually matter, or is it just a preventative measure? You can breed related rabbits together. You can breed mother to daughter. No, not mother to daughter. That would be weird, wouldn't it? It would be a miracle if you bred them and it actually worked. You can breed mother to son, father to daughter. Do not want to breed brother and sister. I think you're on the right track, though, with going to find an unrelated source. That's probably where you're best to start off with, just to be sure. DT Quail and Rabbitry says, I had my Holland buck. My Holland buck died last week. He was zoning or passing out in his cage, and when I went and touched him, he would wake up and then pass out again. What would cause this? I've looked and found nothing. That sounds like a neurological issue of some kind. Like, did he have some kind of head injury? Did he get maybe startled and jumped and, banged his head around or something like that? That's my best guess on that. I don't know of a disease right offhand, like a virus or any of those kinds of things that would cause that necessarily. Maybe an ear infection of some kind, but that shouldn't cause him to die like that. I'm sorry, DT Quail, I don't know. Sometimes sometimes animals just die and they act weird and you just never really know what it is. To know for sure, you'd probably have to take him to a vet, and that's going to get really expensive. I don't know if it's worth doing, honestly. As long as you don't have any other rabbits doing that, showing those symptoms, it's probably just a one-time fluke kind of thing. Sorry, I can't answer that any better. Crystal Marshall says, my New Zealand and cross doe has just turned 6 months, and a few weeks ago she was very friendly and social, and recently overnight it seems she went aggressive. She strikes at anything that enters her cage. Is she pregnant? Have you had her with a male rabbit? A lot of times you'll see does will just totally change behavior whenever they get pregnant. And then as soon as they have their babies, they're just back to calm and normal again. A lot of times it's the other way around. You get an aggressive doe, and then once it's pregnant, it's just friendly and calm. It's a weird thing. Rabbits are moody little creatures. And I tell you what, though, I would not put up with a rabbit that's real aggressive for very long. You might check her ears, make sure she doesn't have ear mites, make sure there's nothing wrong with her teeth. If you can get her a hold of her, check her teeth, that she doesn't have any abscesses in her mouth or anything like that. That she didn't have any eye infections that makes it hard for her to see or anything like that. Those could be causing some of those issues, but other than that, could just be teenage attitude. She may grow out of it. If she was very sweet up until this point, give her a little while, she may get over it, or she may not. All right. Joe comment says, no, I'm not sure what you're saying no to, but I've seen you skin a rabbit. You've seen me skin a rabbit, huh? Yeah, I have a video on that. It got marked as, in both my butchering videos, I got a rabbit butchering video and I got a quail butchering video. But if you're under 18, you can't watch them because somebody reported them and both of them got marked as age restricted. You have to be over 18 to watch them. Crazy. All right. Crystal Marshall says, that's more on that rabbit that's aggressive. She growls. I've checked for sores and ear mites, and nothing is wrong. I wish I could tell you more. Give her a little bit more, and you'll see. Hopefully she gets over it. All right, Emanuela. I think I said your name wrong earlier, didn't I? Sorry. Back to Eden was an amazing and really inspiring video. I like your approach to gardening and raising animals. Well, thank you so much. I like the Back to Eden video too. The guy, what's his name? Paul, I think is his name. He he has this just really charismatic guy. Great approach to it. He's a Christian, which I happen to agree with. But I think even if you're not, you can appreciate the video. I just find it funny. People ask him questions, and his answer is always, well, I asked the Creator, and he told me in a dream. And I mean, he's just a very, diehard Christian kind of guy, and has got all this scripture that he quotes from as to why his gardening method works. And I just like his answer every time. That, I wondered why my potato. He was talking about his potatoes growing and why he didn't have to mound up over them like people do. And he was saying, well, I asked the Creator why that was, and he took me down into the ground in a dream, and I'm not saying that's not what happened. It sounds like it probably is, but I love his approach to that, and he's open about it. He just shares it with everybody. I think that's great. All right. Jamie Lander says, LOL, sorry, we need the chicken coop isolated off the ground. Oh, Jamie, I'm sorry. Now I'm on track with what you're talking about. Do you need to put the chicken coop off the ground? Well, you could do that. With it being at a school, I've got a great solution for deterring predators, but with it being at a school, it's probably going to be very hard to do this. But one thing that will work very, very well is get like an electric fence, just electric fence charger, and hook an electric wire all the way around the coop. It doesn't have to be real close, 3 feet away, 2 feet away, whatever. Take some aluminum foil, rub some peanut butter on it, fold it over on that electric wire about every 3 feet or so all the way around. No matter what it is, if it's coming for the chickens, it likes peanut butter. And it's going to smell that peanut butter. It's going to go up to those pieces of foil, lick at those things, and bam, get hit with that electric fence, and it won't bother your chickens. But if you got it at a school with kids around, you probably can't do that. If you have the ability to lift the coop off the ground, then yeah, I would do that. But if it's a raccoon or a possum, that they can climb, so that may or may not keep them out. I wish I had a better answer for you. Unfortunately, I don't. All right, LLJ says, our first litter of rabbits are ready to process, but my plan of handling them daily so they can be calm their last day has backfired. They are so friendly, I'm going to always remember the first in line. Yeah, that's a tough part, LJ. It's almost easier, I think. It's hard to handle a rabbit when they're not socialized a lot, because, boy, they can kick, they can scratch, they go crazy. But it's almost easier to process them that way. It's really hard to process a rabbit when they're sitting there looking up at you, big eyes, I love you. Very hard to do. I know that's tough. That's why they say never name your animals. But who knows? Joe Shelburne says, hey, Chris, I could send you plenty of baby rabbits. I've got them running out my ears. Well, thank you, Joe. I'm going to have baby rabbits here pretty soon, though. I'm not worried about it. It'll pick back up. Jonathan Roy says, I just killed my buck and saw he only had one testicle. He didn't say testicle, but I'll keep it cleaned up a little bit. I'm wondering, would they have been why he didn't want to breed? Could be, Jonathan. I wouldn't think that would keep him from breeding, though. More than likely, most of the time when a buck doesn't want to breed, it's because they're overweight. They've just got too much fat on them, and they're lazy. But who knows? That could very well be the case. And since he did only have one, you're probably better off culling him from your herd anyway. Jesse Jackson says, sheep mulching rocks with larger gardens. I think sheep mulching works with any kind of garden. That's just my opinion anyway. I've sheep mulched just little bitty square patches for just one tree, and it's worked pretty well. I've done it for all kinds of things. The key is really the mulch part of it, the wood chips or straw or dead leaves or whatever on top of the ground, because if you don't cover the ground, nature will, and it'll cover it with weeds, and around here it's Bermuda grass, which is horrible stuff. So you've got to make sure that you cover it with something. All right. Jesse Jackson says, curious if quail are quieter than chicken. Yes. Well, maybe not quieter than... Yes, they are quieter than chickens. The roosters will crow. They're not anywhere near as loud as a chicken rooster crowing. But they are louder than a chicken whenever you just have the chickens running around. They're kind of clucking. It's a little bit louder than that, I would say. But it's nowhere near as frequent as that. So, yeah, they are quieter than chickens, I would say. Oh, you like my new shirt? My wife got this for me for my birthday. Thank you very much. I kind of liked it too. I think that's one of the best quotes from Ronald Reagan. I'm just old enough where I can kind of remember Ronald Reagan. I remember when he won the presidency. But of course, I was in like fifth grade. I wasn't real political at that time. Still not incredibly political, but this is the best quote I think one of the best ones he ever had anyway. Aloha Quails is here. Hey, how are you? Glad to see you. Tracy Hedford, hey there. Chris Adams says, look at that. Chris Adams, aloha. Chris Adams is saying he always checks for one of your latest videos right after checking for one of mine. So, awesome. Thank you so much. Joe Comment says, oh no, I named mine breakfast, lunch, and dinner, LOL. That reminds me of a story. When I was younger, my grandma got she lived out in the country. So she always had, chickens and, animals, some animals like that. Mostly chickens most of the time. But she got this turkey one time, and it was a family member's turkey. They had given it to her. And so I go out to her place. I was going to go squirrel hunting or something. I don't remember what it was. But I go out there and I see this turkey. I'm like, hey, Grandma, you got a turkey? Oh, yeah. I can't remember what family member. They gave it to me. They couldn't take care of it anymore, so they gave it to me, so I'm just taking care of it. She said its name is Lurch. But I could have sworn she said its name was Lunch. So I called it Lunch forever before I finally figured out its name was actually Lurch, not Lunch. And I thought, that's kind of cruel. Name your turkey Lunch. All right. Colleen says, we process our crews and handle the colored kits that we sell as pets. Yeah, that's probably good. Red-eyed white rabbits. Oh, red-eyed white rabbits are the ones you process. The colored ones you... It sounds very racist, doesn't it? No, you kill the white rabbits, you keep the colored ones, and sell them as pets. But I don't know why that struck me as funny, but it did. Hey, Aloha, you always watch my videos. Well, thank you so much, Aloha. I watch a few of your videos, but I'm going to be honest, I don't always watch them. No offense. It's just I'm not always on YouTube watching. I don't have that much time. But I do watch. You're one of the channels that I do go and check fairly frequently and watch your videos on. You had a really good video on feeders that I shared on the Facebook group, I think. Oh, yeah, lots of rain. Yeah, that's one nice thing about not using poop trays is I don't have to worry about the rain or any of those kinds of things. Six Count Family wants to know, can temperature play a part in infertility in quail or rabbits? In rabbits, for sure. When it gets really, really hot out, anything over about 85 to 90 degrees, there is a chance that your buck will go sterile. It's not a guarantee. I've never had that problem. But there is a chance, and it's a fairly good possibility that your buck rabbit will go sterile. Now, don't worry, it's not a permanent thing. As soon as it cools off, they come right back and they're fertile again. But the heat is very hard on them. And quail, not so much. If the roosters are crowing, they're pretty much fertile. The problem is that when it's really cold, your eggs are freezing, so it doesn't matter if they're fertile or not. They're freezing, and then they're no good to incubate. All right, Chris Adams says, hey, Chris, my wife and I just found 5 acres for homesteading, and we're going to do chickens. But now, thanks largely to you, we're going to do quail instead when we get moved in. Well, hey, hopefully it works out well for you. You know, if I lived out in the country where I didn't have to worry about it too much, I'd probably have chickens and quail. There's certain things about quail I like, but chickens are pretty nice too. And you can put chickens to work for you. They'll actually weed a garden bed for you if you kind of pin them off in the right places at the right times of year. You can do quite a bit with them. And let them loose on a compost pile, they'll turn that for you. It's awesome. Quail won't do that. But, having a couple of chickens around and some quail, why not have both? But, hey, watch the videos. I'll make sure that you get taken care of on the quail. If you have questions, come back and ask, and I will do my best to answer those for you. DT Quail and Rabbitry says, good news, though good news, though. My James Marie eggs went into lockdown today. Well, fantastic, DT Quail. Good luck on your hatch. You can't go wrong with James Marie eggs. They are great bloodlines. Colleen says, it's easier to process the red-eyed rabbits. Well, I can imagine it is easier. I had a giant chinchilla. It was a mix. It was a giant chinchilla New Zealand mix rabbit one time, and I'll tell you what, she threw the cutest baby rabbits ever. I mean, they were adorable and soft, and it was very hard to process those baby rabbits. I've got some of their, I got some feet saved from them over here somewhere. But yeah, that was tough. I get what you mean about the red-eyed whites being a little bit easier to process. Aloha says, I'm in a city, so I have no choice. I have to deal with poop on a regular basis. You know, I live in the city too. I just let it fall to the ground. It's really not that bad. You know, when it gets wet, it smells a little bit, but even when it's piled up like that, even when it rains, it's really not that bad at all. And one nice thing, last summer anyway, hopefully they come back this summer, is, of course, you know, I live in the city, but I don't have neighbors behind me. So nobody really close packed in. I realize I can get away with a lot that some other people can't. But it's really not that bad. Just letting it drop to the ground. There's not really that much of smell. People come over, and when they've never seen it before, they come over and they come back and check out my quail. And that's one of the comments I always make. Well, it doesn't really smell bad or anything. Anyway, what I was saying, last summer, hopefully this summer again, I had black soldier fly move into the manure pile underneath my quail hutches. So I just black soldier fly larvae all through it. And the great thing about that is they drove away all the regular flies. So I didn't even have a fly problem. It was fantastic. Six Count Family says, so when it's hot outside, do you advise to breed rabbits in the evening? You know, honestly, Six Count, when it's hot outside, I don't breed the rabbits. But yeah, if you're going to breed them, I would do it in the evening or early morning before the heat sets in. You know, you can. There's nothing saying you can't. I don't know exactly what part of the country you live in, how hot it gets. Here in the summertime, it gets over 100 degrees fairly regularly. And I usually take the hottest months, June, July, August. I usually just take those off. Don't even breed. Give the rabbits a break, and then I pick it back up in the fall. LLJ says, after initial dispatch, will the rabbit go stiff? What's the process there after? Oh, what's the process after dispatching the rabbit? Yes, the rabbit will go stiff. Rigor mortis will set in. It takes a little while. How long? You know, an hour or two before rigor mortis starts to set in. What's really best to do, and people do it different ways. Some people soak them in salt water for whatever. I believe in dry aging my meat. Put them in the refrigerator in a cooler with some ice around them or whatever for about 24 hours, and the rigor mortis will leave the meat, and then they'll become flexible again. And then at that point, freeze them, cook them, whatever you want to do with them. But I always wait until it's about 24 hours, give or take a little bit, you know, a couple hours, and they'll loosen back up. So hopefully that kind of helps. Aloha Quail says, I only have 3,300 SF. I don't know what that means. 3,300 SF between, square feet. Between my house and my neighbor is about 20 feet. Yeah, that's pretty tight, pretty close. Hopefully they don't mind the quail too much. My neighbors are actually, all my neighbors are very, very friendly, very cool people. I share eggs with them occasionally, and that probably helps too, but none of them really care at all. Heck, the neighbor on the other side of me right here has goats in her backyard. She doesn't care at all about the quail being back there. She comes over and takes care of them for me when I'm gone. So it's pretty nice. Tracy Hedford says, have you been watching Justin Rhodes' channel slightly? Oh, I've seen a few of Justin Rhodes' video. I kind of like his videos. He seems like a pretty good guy, just a good family kind of guy. Kind of like his personality. So yeah, I've watched a few of his videos. I don't watch anybody's videos, like every single video that they put out. I just don't have that much time to keep in there. But Justin Rhodes is one of them I keep an eye on. Aloha Quails, I do watch a couple of his videos from time to time too. Who else do I watch? The Beat by Alan Parr. It's a Bible verse channel. I watch occasionally some of his videos. Kind of like his approach to theology. I don't always agree with everything he says, but that's okay. Don't have to agree with everything he says. It's still nice to. I like the way that he conducts his videos too. Who else do I watch? There's a couple other ones. Somebody mentioned in here one time Living Traditions Homestead. So I've kind of watched a few of their videos. They're neighbors of mine. Well, not literally neighbors, but they're just on the other side of Springfield. It's only like 65 miles away. So they're pretty close, and they just moved to Missouri. So it's kind of neat to watch them, taking off on their homestead and some of the things they're sharing. They share a lot of the same kinds of things I share. So who knows? I watch a couple of their videos from time to time. Who knows? Just a kind of a variety of things there. All right. Susie Peterson says, hi, do you ever tan your rabbit hides? If so, you know what? I don't tan my rabbit hides right now, but I get a lot of questions about that. So I might do that at some point. And if I do, I'll shoot video and let you know. There are a couple of different ways you can tan hides. I'm by no means an expert on doing that. There is a common saying that every animal has enough brains to tan its own hide. So there's a brain tanning method that you can use. There is a battery acid method that you can use, but most of them are going to involve pickling the hide in something like a battery acid water mixture. Very little battery acid to a little bit of water. You dunk the hides in them. You let them sit in there for a week or two or whatever it is. Then you take them out, and that will loosen up the. You'll flesh the hides. You'll peel off the kind of the membrane that sticks to the hide. Get all that off of there. You may have to soak them again for a little while and bring them out and do that again. Wring them out real good, wash them out real good, neutralize all that acid. And then stretch them out over, let them dry and stretch them out over like the back of a chair or something like that to kind of soften them up. And there's a little bit more to it than that. But I'll have to maybe do a video on that at some point. Give it a try and let you know. I will tell you, everybody always asks about tanning the hides. When you're butchering rabbits at 8 weeks old, their hide's usually not really ideal for many things. It's more of a craft grade hide. It's not really good for making a lot of clothing. It's not real durable. They don't have their adult, thick, heavy, hides in yet. So, not to say you can't do it. Not to say you can't make clothes out of it, like gloves or hats or whatever you want to. Not to say it won't work, but usually not ideal. Hang on 1 second. I got somebody texting me on my phone. Make sure it's not urgent. And that can wait. I can answer that later. All right. What do we got here? Chris Adams wants to know, have you considered black soldier fly larvae as food for your birds? They're about 40 to 45% protein. Yeah, they make a great food source. When I had them underneath the quail hutches, I would sift some out and throw them in there for the birds as treats and stuff for them. As far as like setting up a box and raising them and attracting them in, I mean, they are self-harvesting. If you set the box up right and you just put a cup out there, they'll crawl into the cup, so you don't have to do anything. But no, I'm not going to probably set up a black soldier fly, colony purposefully or anything like that. Just you're going to have to feed them constantly. The things that they eat, it's kind of a mess. I'm just not going to mess with that kind of work. And if you are feeding something like that to your birds, you probably need to provide them with some kind of grit as well, because they'll need that to help grind up the feed. Nothing wrong with it, though. If you want to do it, go for it. Give me a second to get a drink here. All right. And Vaughn's asking about mealworms. Yeah, same thing with mealworms. Yeah, they work. There's nothing wrong with feeding mealworms to your birds. Either one of those, whether you're feeding black soldier fly or mealworms, you can't make that their sole diet. They need other things in there. They need some variety in there. So they're going to need a little bit of vegetable, variety of some kind, other kind of insects, and some calcium, all those kinds of things. And it does complicate it when you start feeding natural diets, making sure they get everything right. If they're not, now if you have them out where they're like foraging for their food, you don't have to worry about it. But if you're the one controlling their food, it does complicate it to go with a natural feeding. So that's why I stick to just game bird. But again, if you want to feed black soldier fly larvae or you want to feed mealworms to your birds, go for it. One thing I will caution you about, though, is don't feed them to very young birds. Wait till the birds are older, because quail toes look a lot like a mealworm or a black soldier fly larva. So if you're feeding them to very young birds, they tend to start looking at the other bird's toes and pecking at the toes to try to eat the toes. So it's best to wait until you get bigger ones. Susie Peterson says, battery acid with a question mark and laughs. Yeah, really, battery acid. You can buy it any kind of, what is it? It's not really, I mean, it's not called battery acid, I don't think, but it's called like, what is battery acid? Sulfuric acid, I guess it is. Anyway, look that up, read about that before you go out and do that. Don't just go buy a bunch of battery acid and throw it in a bucket of water and, it is acid. I mean, you don't want to go crazy with it. Make sure you wear eye protection and like rubber gloves if you're going to do that. Protect yourself. So, well, thanks, guys, for all you guys saying you like the videos. Coke or Pepsi. Today is Pepsi, and it's in the retro can. I kind of like these retro cans. But if they were truly retro, they wouldn't have this kind of top on them. They'd have the the kinds you peeled off. You guys remember those? Those were different. Alum and salt, that's another way to do it. DT Quail and Rabbitry's bring that up. Alum and salt for tanning works really well. That's another way to do it. You can do it that way too. Jesse Jackson says, from what I'm hearing, I'm going to give quail a try. I already have 12 rabbits. 12 rabbits is a lot of rabbits. Yeah, I'm sure that you're going to do fine with quail too. They're not really difficult, pretty easy to handle. Tracy Hedford says, my first litter of bunnies are 9 weeks old now, but it looks like none of them will be going to Camp Becco. They are selling like hotcakes. Oh, you're selling them all. You're not putting them in freezer camp, huh? Well, I guess that's a good problem to have. I personally raise my rabbits so I can eat them. I don't sell very many. I sell a few here and there, but they're primarily a food source for my family. I raise them for 2 reasons. One, to provide food for my family. The other is to provide fertilizer for the garden. They're almost worth raising just for the manure alone. It's fantastic fertilizer. Zachary says, not even sure I was born for the peel tabs, LOL. Well, let's see, Zachary, you probably weren't. I think I remember you're considerably younger than me. And I remember them, I think they probably, when did they pull away from the pull tabs? Was it like early 80s, 82 maybe, 83, somewhere around in there maybe? I don't know. I wasn't very old though. But I remember people used to take the pull tabs off those and, you know, bend them over and hook them together, and you can make like long chains out of them. And I mean, they do all kinds of things with them. All right, where am I at here? 2 males and 10 females on your rabbits. Well, that's a good ratio. The Outdoor Trapper says, did you do any deer hunting this year slightly? Yes, I did do deer hunting this year. I actually got a buck. I got a, well, he would have been 10 points, I think, but he had one antler busted off, so he was like 8 points. He had like 5 on one side, 2 or 3 on the other. I don't remember. I will, you know, I'm getting him Euro mounted, so I'm getting the skull, you know, just the skull. So whenever I get it back, maybe I'll try to take some pictures and post them or something like that. He wasn't any record breaker or anything like that, but he was a decent buck, and he was an older buck, so he was a good harvest. Meat Sock 423 says, are you gay? I don't know why that matters, but no, I'm not, but I'm not sure why that matters. Interesting question. Walt Lars says, checking in late. Well, hey, Walt, glad to have you here either way. Joe Comet says, that's funny. We were just talking about making chains with the old pull tabs today at work. Yeah, it's I remember that too. Isabel says, think the trolls are out and about. Could be. Hasn't been too bad yet, though. We'll see. Oh, you caught a nice, Walt says, caught some nice bass on a spinner lure I made from pull tabs. Really? That's crazy. I tell you what, if you want to find pull tabs, get a metal detector. I got a metal detector somebody bought for me for a gift. And I get out and play with it every once in a while, go dig things up out of the yard. But man, you pull tabs out of the yard like crazy. They're all over the place. You know, interestingly enough, that's not the first time I've been asked that. I get asked that all the time. I don't know why. I don't know. I guess I protrude something that makes people think that. But, oh well. You remember the cans before pull tabs, huh? You know what I remember with weird pull tabs are the old V8 cans. If you guys remember V8, came in the long, tall, skinny can, and it had those like foil pull tabs on them. That was weird. Yeah, I remember the church key or the, what's the Army one called? I can't remember what the Army can opener's called. P42, is that right? Because it takes 42 turns around a can to open it, a number 10 can. All right. Sharky's back. Good to see you. LLJ asks if Yoo-Hoo had pull tabs. I don't know. I never really was a fan of Yoo-Hoo. So I don't remember it in anything. Well, I do remember cans of Yoo-Hoo. I don't remember if they had pull tabs or not. P38. That's it, Joe. Thank you. Did your, oh boy, I read that wrong and thought that was a spam comment. Did your doe give birth? No, my doe did not give birth. So I'm not going to tell you guys what I thought that said at first. It was terrible. No, my doe did not give birth yet. I don't know if she's going to or not. She's hanging out in the nest box, but and she hasn't been for the last couple of days. So just yesterday and today, she's been in the nest box a lot. So that makes me think maybe, but I don't know. We're going to give her another through the end of the weekend before we do anything. Luis Ramirez says, what's a good incubator to start off with? Little Giant's good. Again, if I was going to buy a new one, I would go with a Hovabator. I've heard great things about those. They just get fantastic reviews compared to the other ones. If you can't get Hovabator, you don't want to. Little Giant's pretty good too. And the biggest thing I like about them is that, any kind of styrofoam incubator you buy like that, they're notorious for the thermostats being off just a little bit. But what I will tell you about Little Giant is that they do stand behind their product. I'm sure Hovabator does too. And maybe even Farm Innovations. Those are kind of the three main ones. But I had a thermostat go out on my Little Giant, and I called the company, and they replaced it, no questions asked. Not the whole incubator, just the thermostat piece, but that's all I needed. So I think that's a really good good way to stand. That says something good about the company. P51s are a longer one. Yeah, the P38's a great prepper item to have. Yeah, Walt, it is. I've got a few of those somewhere around. They are nice to have. I actually have one. It's not a P38, but this is part of my everyday carry Gerber multi-tool. And I will tell you guys, this is my favorite kind of multi-tool, the Gerber. Just a little bit of a product review while we're on here. You just flick it like that and it opens right up. So you can do it one-handed. You don't have to unfold it like you do most of them. It's got these little locks on the side. You just kind of push in on them. And it's being difficult now that I'm on camera. It pushes back down. All your tools are right on the outside. But this has got a can opener on it, one side. There it is. Can opener right on there. Great to have. Fantastic multi-tool. Gerber Flick is what this one's called. All right, where are we at here? How long can quail and rabbit feed last after it's opened and if it's not opened? Good question, Houdini. I've never had it go bad on me. The thing is to keep it dry. If it gets wet and it sits for a long time, it's going to mold, and you do not want to feed moldy food to your rabbits. But other than that, it lasts for quite a while. It's really not a concern. Patrick says, after listening to you on deer hunting, fishing, and birds, I think we just might be related. You never know, man. It's a small world. You'd be surprised how many people you're related to. Aloha Quail says, I have a Hovabator and I love it. I like the wafer over digital. Yeah. I've heard really good things. When I go for a new one, I'll probably get one. Yeah, Walt's saying the same thing. Keep the feed dry and out of sunlight to keep it good for a long time. It will keep good for a long time if you do that. Sharky says, I can't believe my second channel with 2 subs got 11 views on one of my videos in 1 hour. Well, fantastic, Sharky. Congratulations on that. And Isabel says, I use the Hovabator with the egg turner. Yep, that's a good combination. Works well. Emanuela says, I am trying to convince hubby to get meat rabbits. A local lady has some from show bloodlines, and I would like to give the babies to local 4-H that do shows. We would use them for fertilizer mostly. Hey, why not? Go for it. If you can talk the husband into it. DT Quail and Rabbitry says, I use Little Giants and have 2 more deluxe models on the way. Great incubators. I've had good luck with my Little Giants. Everybody talks bad about them, but they worked well for me. Walt says, I carry a Gerber multi-tool for like 20 plus years. Yeah, me too. And here's a great thing about Gerber multi-tools, lifetime guarantee. I think most of the other ones do too. But really a lifetime guarantee. So if you break one, like I've got one on mine that, let me see if I can find it real quick. There it is. The screwdriver has got a chip in it. I don't know if you guys can see that on camera. Maybe you can see it now. It's kind of chipped right there. And all I got to do is send that into the company. They'll send me a brand new multi-tool. They stand behind it. I've had to send one in 2 or 3 times, and they always send me a brand new one. So Gerber's great for that. Oh, Dees wants to know how much is the Gerber Flick. I think they're about a $40, maybe $50 multi-tool. We're running on time. 53 minutes. We're getting close to having to wrap this up. Let's see what else we got here. Magic Fly Digital Mini fully automatic egg turner, 9 to 12 eggs, poultry hatcher for chickens, ducks, goose, birds, and it's awesome. But it only holds 9 to 12 eggs. So I'm just kidding, Susie. If Magic Fly Digital Mini fully automatic egg incubator for 9 to 12 eggs. If that works for you, that works for you. I'm usually incubating like 50 or 60 at a time, though. That would be way too small for me. But hey, if it works, go for it. Alex says, how do you make your doe drop more eggs to have a bigger litter size? Are you talking about rabbits? It's a genetics thing. There's not really much you can do to make her. If she's not having big litters, after about the second, third litter, change her out for another rabbit, and you're going to get better results with that. Go for go for the ones that are known for being meat rabbits. New Zealand whites, Californias, silver foxes, Florida whites, some of those kinds of things. They are bred specifically for big litter size, fast grow outs. That's going to be your best bet with those. All right, Joe wants to know, have you ever had a coop of just hens for eggs, or do you keep them all with males? I keep all mine with roosters. We eat the eggs, and then occasionally I collect them up and incubate them and do a meat run. But yeah, if you want to have them all hens, you can. There's no problem with that. Nothing's going to go wrong. Yep, aloha, you're right. No matter what incubator you turn, get an automatic egg turner. I mean, you don't have to have it. You can just go in there and just kind of roll them around with your hand a couple times a day. But I don't want to do that. So I like the automatic egg turner. Let it take care of them. Beef for Dinner says, what is the biggest issue or most common issue you have raising quail? Oh boy, the most common issue I have. I don't know that I have really any issues raising quail. Well, you know what? That's probably the probably the thing is getting your ratios right, or trying to make sure when you're introducing new birds into your bloodlines, the issue with them wanting to fight with each other. They are very much a tight-knit community. If you throw one bird in there with about 5 or 6 other birds that are all together already, they're going to kill that one bird more than likely. So they can be pretty aggressive, and that's a little bit tricky to deal with. But I've had really good luck moving young birds before they're sexually mature in with older birds, and they kind of seem to integrate in pretty well at that point. Zachary says, have you ever had a litter of rabbits on day 26? I thought this was weird. I wasn't so happy. I lost all 10, froze to death. When do you stick the nest box in? I usually do day 28. Not sure what happened. I've never had a doe give birth on day 26, but I've heard of that happening before. And it could be, don't beat yourself up too much, because it could be that she just kind of aborted them. It's not that uncommon if there's a failed pregnancy of some kind, the rabbits to do that. Day 26 is a little bit early, but it's not impossibly early either. I usually put my nest box in on day like 25 to 27, somewhere right around in there. LLJ says, so Gerber beats LL Bean now. Well, I don't know much about LL Bean. That's always been like way out of my price range for stuff that kind of seemed kind of more, how do you say it, more, I don't know, just not slightly redneck, let's put it that way. That's more for like the weekend warrior. But I can't say how great a quality their stuff is because it's always seemed kind of fattish to me. So I've never really dealt much with any LL Bean stuff. Yeah, Walt, you're right. The only problem with sending a Gerber tool in to get fixed is you wouldn't know what to do without it while it's gone. I actually have 2 Gerber tools. The other one's are kind of it's not as good of a model. It's a little bit of a cheaper model, but it is when I send this one in to get it repaired, that's the one I carry for the couple of weeks it takes to get it back to me. Houdini, love the vids. Keep it up. Have a great night. Thank you so much, Houdini. You have a good night as well. I am going to have to get this wrapped up. So, what do we got here? Have a great night to you too, 6 count. Zachary, I actually did a video on that. You're asking about whether quail are economical, how much it takes to get them to eating size, and how many does it take to make a meal. Usually about 2 of them is a good meal. I've got a new recipe to share with you guys too. Maybe I'll get that done this week on quail. This worked out really, really well. So stay tuned for that. I'll share it with you. I'm not going to give you too many details of it right now. But anyway, I did a video on that. How much feed do quail take, I think is what it's called, or how much do quail eat? I don't remember exactly, but if you go back through my channel and look for it, you'll find it. It came out, I can't remember the exact measurements it came out to. I think it came out to something like $1 or $2 to raise them up to 8 weeks old. Anyway. Matoma I think it is. Matoma Martin, here from Melbourne, Australia. Thank you so much. We're actually wrapping this video up, so if you just came in, sorry. Hate to just bail on you guys, but I got to get off here, go spend some time with the family before bedtime. I actually have the day off work tomorrow, but it's not going to be all fun and games. I got to go take care of stuff, get trucks tires rotated, oil change done, run by the bank, all those kinds of things that you can't do because you're working during the time those places are open. So I got the day off tomorrow to go take care of them. So, all right, I got to get off here tonight, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. As always, God bless each and every one of you. Come back, let me know what kinds of things you'd like to see in future videos, and have a great night. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.